Yep. Good evening, everyone. So, yesterday we learned about how do we deal with express. So, let's see another example. So, server side, we discussed about all the basic concept of how to manage API requests. We learned about working with API requests, and I showed you another API also. What is that API? Is a JSON API, internal locally, how the API server works also. Now, next important, after understanding that, we are discussing about error handling. Yesterday, I given you overview about exception handling, but what is the concept of error handling in the new middleware? Because as we already discussed in our previous Express.js current version is 5. 5 and 4 are current active versions. Up to 4 in previous versions, they used to use all callbacks, and there we need to use a lot of exception handling. And exception handling methods I already explained. So we have try, catch, throw finally. Now in the new version, what is new concept? In the new version, all are promises. Promises advantage is what? They already have a built-in error log, we can use them. So what we are going to learn here is how we can catch the errors, find the errors and report the errors. So here error handling in Express, we will see the point. Yesterday already I explained exception handling, how to write. And what is the error handling approach here is, so here Express provides promise based functions. Express provides promise based functions that report errors on reject. That reports errors on reject. That report errors on reject. So Express provides promise-based functions that report errors on reject. What is reject? Promises usually have resolve and reject. The reject is a function that executes when there is any issue in the request, right? So reject executes when there is any issue in the request. So what Express can do is, Express can provide the options like Express have options actually. You already learned Express request methods provide request, response, and they provide next. Three important basic objects express request methods will provide: the request, the response, and next. Now, by seeing this, let's understand what they are going to handle: request object, response object, and a next object. So I will show you a sample here. Let's go to the test file. In the test file, I am importing constant express is equal to require express. So we have a constant app is equal to express. And we have app.get method. Get method is using a path. Now, whenever you configured this, you saw we learnt about two objects. The callback comprises of request, another one response, another one it also have a next. That means we are having three objects: the request, response, and next. We already learnt what request object can do. It is going to request data from client. Response sends the response to the client. And what request and response contains already I showed you. For example, I will show you here for var property in next object. We are trying to understand what is this next object. So console log, and so here we are using next. Sorry, what is the property? So app.listen, and on particular port number, some 3030, console log, and server started, HTTP localhost 3030. Local IP address is referred as localhost. Now node test.js, it is executing this. Let's open in a browser. We are opening that in the browser, and here we are inspecting. So in the console, we will add the end method also. So here we will use response dot what end. So we will execute this because I am not showing in console response dot send property. Okay. And 3030 is the request. What are the messages it is having? Next is not sending any property here. Response dot send next. Okay, you can see here, this next is going to show you the message, and you can see the next is going to display this error related details. What are those? I will show here. Zoom. Yeah. Now what next is going to do is, yeah, this next is going to return one object. What is that object type here? Next is going to return an error argument. This error argument contains the all information about what is problem in the your request. That means whatever the request that you define in Express.js, if request related any issues are there, those issues are reported to the Express.js by using which method? By using next. Actually, this next is going to return, means I will add this here now. I will use this next function here like this. And you can observe here, when I run this test.js and I request this now, the next is going to execute and it will send the error details to our Express.js. You can see this next method. This next method contains an error object. This next is derived from one function. What is the function type? Next function. Next function contains an error. This error is going to catch all the errors related to this particular request. Client side errors, server side errors. If there is any error related to that request, it is handled by using which method? Next. So what next is going to do here? You can see next is derived from a next function. In this library, we cannot detailedly see about them, because generally in libraries, if you have installed complete library, you can go to the library and see how it works. What you can do is right click on that function and you can say go to definition. When you select go to definition, it will take us to the location from where it is actually coming. But it is not tracking any background, any library. It is tracking our location only. That means it is showing that next is available in two different locations. Actually, if a library is completely installed and available, when you right click and go to next definition, it will take us to that particular location. It will show what it is having. Actually, it is derived from whom? You saw that next is derived from whom? Next function. This next function, you observe, it is having three overloads. You can use up and down arrow to know the overloads. Up arrow, you can see this is the first one. And see, it is using defer to next router. Defer to next router. This is nothing but this next function. I showed you redirecting now. Redirecting, I used response dot redirect. What next function can do is, when you are debugging your application, after executing the current route, after testing the current route, it will go to the next route. After testing the current route, to which route you need to navigate, that you can define by using what? Next. Next has one function, that is navigating you to the next route so that after finishing the current route, testing the current route, it will take you to the next route. That means in a sequence, the routes will be executed. That is one overload. Down arrow, second overload. You see number 2 of 3. Here, the second overload is also using the same defer to next. That is what? Route name. And down arrow, third one. So you see third one is using an error. That means now what next is going to have? Next parameter is going to have, next is going to have an error. Next is going to have an error. What this error is going to do is, this error function can collect the error and report the error. That means whatever error comes, it can get the error and report the error. Error related to what? Error related to the current route. And how do we report these errors and view these errors? We will see debugging. We will put the debugging and we will see how these are reported. For that, we need to use what? Debug. We need to set the debug so that we can track the errors and view the errors. Let's put the debugging also. So here, what is request, response, no need to explain. What is next is, actually next is derived from next function. Is derived from next function. It provides various functionalities like defer to route and catch the errors and catch the errors. It can report the errors. It can report the errors. It can report the errors to Express. We can report the errors to Express. Actually, this next function, whatever the next function is there, this next function, let's see type of next. Already we know that. What is the data type of it? So what is the data type of that? It will say it is currently undefined. Type of next is going to return the data type of next, and it is showing it is undefined. But actually, what is its type? It is derived from which base class? Next function. Suppose I will write here. We have a next function, but it is the library related file. If it is library file, we need to import and we need to use it. Actually, what is this next function? Next function is the base for where this next is coming. What it can do, this next function can return a function which will collect the issues in this request and report the issues. Defer means what? Suppose I am showing another situation here. Because these all we need to learn with combination of debugging now. We'll see with combination of debugging. So what we are doing, we are saying first response dot what? Send. This is a home page. That is the response we are sending. After that, what we need to do? We need to use the next. And what next is going to do? Next is going to get the error. And error is what type? Any kind of error. And observe, Next is not returning anything. That means it is an void function. Generally, this function will get the error and it will report the error. It can get the error and report the error. Where the error is reported, we will see. For that, we need to turn on the debugger. What next will do? It will send the error to whom? Debugger. What debugger will do? It will catch that error and it will report the error if there is any problem in executing this. How to set the debugger? I will show. We will see that. So what is the purpose of next? Next provides a function. That function will catch the errors and it will report the errors. There is another one. What is this? Instead of error, what it can do is it can use a router. It can use a route. That means what is the route? So route we can configure. What is the route? We can define the route. Route means what? It will get the current route and it will return all the details of that particular route. So debugger can find the details of the route. Debugger can navigate to the route. Debugger can identify the issues in the route. All that we can catch by using which function? Next. By using next. Here you don't need to write any try, catch, throw, finally like options. Older versions we used to do. Yesterday I showed you in old versions how we used to write. But in the new version, we don't need to do that. Promises are available. They will catch the issues. We have to just report to the debugger. Now, how debugger can catch these problems and show us the problems? Let's see. What I will do now, we created one API now. What is this API.js? In API, we created lot of methods. Now, in every method, what we have to do is we need to add one more object. What is that object? Next. In every method of API that you created, we have to add next. And what we need to do is we need to send that next here. That means we need to use the next function. And we need to send the error. That means what next is going to do? Catch the error and it is going to report the error. Every function should do that. That means, remember, this we don't do when we are finally going to the production. When to do that? We have to do that only when we are going into the development. When we are going into the development, we need to do that. In the production, we don't. Because error handling, exception handling must be only in the development. It should not be in the production level. So what we do syntactically here, app.get, and we have a route and we have three objects: request, response, and next. We define the actions here, configure the actions, and next. So here we have response.end, and here we have next error. So next function returns errors to express, so which is catched. Using debugger, which you can catch using debugger, right? Which you can cache using debugger. Catch using debugger. And how to set the debugger? So set up debugger. for Express. How do we set the debugger for Express? Because when you configure the errors, the debugger will find out the problems and report the problems, and we need to set the debugger. So Express provides first just a normal point. Express provides a debugger to test all the route actions, defined in application. It provides a debugger to test all the route actions defined in application. It tracks the routes and reports the errors. It tracks the routes and reports the errors. Anything happening there? Huh? What you are doing? Nothing. Then what he is watching at you at regular intervals? He likes you. Huh? Or what? Is something else? No? Then what is happening between you two people? You might have something there. Huh? No? Simply you are attracting. Huh? Huh? You don't have anything. Then why he is attracted towards you regularly? No? He is watching me one time, watching you 3 times. Huh? Is everything okay there? Huh? Yeah. Right. Let's see these track routes. How do we track the routes? How do we set the debugging, right? How we can set the debugging here. So before you run the API, already we know how to get the error, how to send the error, right? What we will do now, let's go to the location where we have this API. Huh? Okay, we need to use the command. Better, I will run in a new screen so that you can see clearly. Means I will use a terminal. So here what we need to do is set. We have to use the command set, and set uses what? Debug. Debug is the command. Debug is equal to what? Express. So debug express colon. It should debug all. Asterisk indicates all the methods inside express. And from which file? That means it will stop. From which file? Node. What is the file name? File name is API what? JS. That means what we are doing, we are setting the debugger on for Express.js to debug all the methods that you written in Express. Middleware methods. And middleware methods in which app? The app that is running inside this API.js. So that is the debug option we defined. Now, once you set up this debug and node API.js, and let's start the API now. So here already it is set there. It should start API.js. in a asterisk. Some capitalization issue is there. Actually, this runs in Node API. We don't have any method. API JS is already having na right. Okay, let's open this now. Request. What is the port number it is running? 4040. So listen on port number. Achha. This is a string. 4040 is the port number, not string. It is a number. We have the problem there. Huh? Okay. Next, now you make the request here. http://127.001 : what is it? 4040 slash what categories. We are making a request of this and it has some error. So it is in the terminal only. Set express node api.js. It is fine. Let's make the request. Okay. Next error is not defined. Some issue is there. Before the end. So this error will just execute the next first. Some debugger have an issue. Let me check. Is there any modification in the debug command? Actually, debug command is defined in the same way. Let me check in 5 version Express.js latest. Our version is which one? Express. It is 4.21. But Express.js is latest is there. Where is the version? And end node. Acha. End is missing here. Okay. So it is not semicolon. Here I will use. So what is the command? Is set debug and node api.js. Acha, it is already in use. Okay. We will stop that which is already in use. Okay. Okay, fine. Now you can see already our API is there. What is the debug command we need to do? Set debug is equal to express and the colon asterisk means all the methods, and what it has to do, node API dot what JS. It is going to start debugging. You can see it starts the server. After starting the server, now you make a request in your app. Whatever request related details are there, it will show here. So that means we will run the app now. So let's go to the app. Here we will run. What is it? Categories, and hit enter. It is returning all the categories. So go to the debugger. So the debugger is going to display here. It is going to display the actions. What is the another method we are having? Categories of 1. Okay. Categories of 2. It will get the category of second one. So it is executing this and showing that if there is any error, actually this is not an error. We are not catching the error. Where is the error code? It should get us this version. It has to show actually. I'm having some capitalization issue. Is that okay? The problem is in the capitalization, right? Uppercase, lowercase, because actually in 4 and 5 version, some changes are there. In 4 version, approach is completely different. When I installed it, installed the 4 version. And in 5 version, the new techniques are available. So where I know the version in package.json. In package.json, I can know the version. Actually, we installed Express this version, but currently active version of Express is 5. If you want to install that 5 version, generally what you do, while installing, you need to set up that. While installing, what you need to do, you need to run npm install express at the net what 5. Then it will get the 5 version, right? They have made some changes. I am capturing them and I am using them. So now that is okay. This is the debugging method we have to run. So what is the debug method is? So we need to set the debugger like this syntactically in your terminal. So set, what is it? Debug, capitalization matter, express, colon, asterisk, and node API dot what JS. It is going to debug the complete API request that you have defined in your API. In this API.js, what are the API methods you configured? It will show all of them. And you see now, when I run this, it is going to it is going to show all of them. You see now Express application, and it is showing all the details of that application. That means this application, so where it is configuring the environments and all. Currently, which environment it is working? Currently, it is working in which environment? Development environment it is working. And now you observe here, what are the API methods it is having? It is having the API methods. That is API methods is what? And a lot of other details like router is having a CORS middleware. It is using CORS middleware. It is using URL encoding parser. Parser is what? Body parser. It is using JSON parser. JSON parser means it is to convert JSON. And it is using server.static because yesterday I showed you that it can serve static files, right? And it is showing the paths. That means what are the routes available and how the routes are configured. All the routes in your application. Not only that, now what happens is if you run any particular route, suppose I am running categories of 2. When I run this particular route, automatically what debugger will do, it will execute the route, dispatching get with this particular parameter. How many minutes it taken and what is the query? Query is this 2. Now what it has done? That means what else it has executed, it will get all the information and show. That means it executed the CORS middleware, it executed the parser, it is using JSON parser, and it is using what? Sir. Suppose I am adding a new data into this. How we can add data into this? That means every request that you are doing, it is debugging. It is finding what request you are making, what content it is executing, everything. Now, generally developers can know the actions performed in the application by keeping this debugging on. For example, we will add one. Through the postman we need to add. We will go to postman. And in the postman, we are adding here in the postman, we are adding what is the route? Clear all? Okay. What is the route path here? 4040. That is 4040. That is the route. And in this route, what is the method? Method is what? Post. In the post, we need to add a category. To add the category, what is the method? Add category method is there. That means we will use slash. What is it? Add category. We will go to the body. In the body, we need to send the data. Remember, we given the data in our API as, in the API, we given the data as URL encoded. Na? We are using URL encoded. Then we have to select URL encoded. What is the key? Key is what? Category ID, and value is suppose some 6 category ID. Category name is some woman fashion, something like this we are giving. Fashion like this we are adding. Now I click on send. That means it will send the request and it will get the response. And observe here in the debugger. In the debugger, you see we have the category added. You see what is it is doing? It is dispatching which method? Post method. And what is it? Add category. Add category. After that, it is getting the message category added. After the category added, it is again executing get categories. and it is showing the list of all the categories. Now, what is the point is, if any method is having a problem in execution, it will catch the error and it will report the error. It is going to report the error. That means there is some server side error, there is some client side error. If there is any error, it will catch and it will report. Are we reporting the problems? We are not reporting the problems, but actually problems can be reported. How problem is reported? Let's do one thing. Currently we are using MongoDB. Let's go to services. We will go to services. In the services, what we will do? In the services, MongoDB service is there. This MongoDB server, I will stop. That means suddenly MongoDB server is stopped. Our API is running, but MongoDB server stopped. Okay. Then what I will do, request here. Which request we need to make? So categories is the request we need to make. On which request here? Get. On get, we are requesting the categories and we are sending. Now the MongoDB is disconnected. It is not available. That means we are not able to connect with MongoDB. Then obviously some error will come. And you can observe here when it is sending that request, you can see. So it is sending the request. It is identifying the request. And it will report the problem once it is unable to disconnect. You can see now the error comes here. And see the debugger is going to report the error. And what is the error reported? Reported is what? Connection refused. Connection refused from whom? From this particular port. So why connection refused from that particular port? It will give you complete error related details. All the error related details it is going to report and it is going to display the information. I am showing all the error details. That means the details is like what? It is unable to communicate with the database. So it is displaying some issues. But here the key problem is actually it executed this method. After executing, you saw what happened. The application stopped. Am I right? Application stopped. What is this? If any problem occurred at runtime, the application stopped. This is called abnormal termination. It should not stop the application. It should report us the problem. Am I right? What is exception handling? Exception handling means at runtime of application, if any error occurs, then what it have to do? It should not terminate the application. It have to report the issue. Then how you will catch the issue and how you will report the issue. Now we need to catch the error and report the error. In this case, what is the problem? It is identifying the issue and it is terminating the application. But it should not terminate the application. It should keep the application running and it should just report the problem. What is the problem? It should report. So how do we do that? Concept understood? Why we need exception handling? Exception handling is required to avoid abnormal termination. What is abnormal termination? Just now you saw. What is abnormal termination? Application successfully starts, application successfully executes, it runs and gives you output in many occasions, but in one stage it will get some issue. Due to that issue, what it will do? It will stop. Then tell me how to handle this. That means it should not stop. It should report the problem. So let's see what to do. We will go to our API and see. Here I am starting my application, starting my server again. Let's start MongoDB server again. Okay. Now let's go to our API. In our API, wherever we have written the connection promise is written. Whenever connection promise is written, we haven't written we haven't written the then logic here. So what we are doing here, we are ending this then, we are ending this then. We should not end the then. What we have to do, we have to write here. We should not end. We have to use what? We have to use what? Catch. Catch. What catch is going to do? Catch is going to get the error. Catch is going to catch the error. Whatever error is there, it will catch. And that error we need to send. That error we need to send. That means what we will do is we will use next. Into the next, we will send that error. Understood? That is the approach we need to define. That means if it is successful, which function will execute? Then. If there is a problem, which function will execute? Catch. Catch will catch the error. This catch, whatever error it catches, we have to send that error to the next. Next will send this to whom? Next will send this to the debugger. Debugger will identify what is the problem and it will report the problem. That means we need to avoid abnormal termination of application. Actually, instead of doing this, we can put custom messages. Custom errors also we can write. Custom errors means what? We will simply say that unable to connect, please check your connection. Like that we can put our own messages. But now we are catching the error and reporting. Remember, I am catching the complete error. No need of complete error. We can actually get only error related certain details. Error have only some details. Like what? Error have status code. Error have like status text. It is going to get only specific. If you put in simple error, it will report the complete error. What is the error? Okay, let's stop this now. This time we are handling the error. And once we are handling the error, let's report this now. Let's run the debugger. Set debug express and node api.js. Okay, we are requesting this. Now it shows all the routes which are successfully running. Means it what libraries are added, what functionalities are configured, which middlewares are running in your application, everything it will show. Everything it will show. What routes are configured in your application, everything it will show. Generally, we have seen for fresher in interviews, they ask this question like, you created an API. After creating an API, how do we know what are all the methods present in that API? When I created the API, I showed you the route methods separately. I given get method, post method, I written. How a developer knows what are all the methods designed for your API? What are all the middlewares configured for your API? That you can get that information using debugging tools. You can turn on the debugger. Debugger is going to get the information about all the routes you are using, about all the middlewares you are using, all the parsing techniques also you are using. It will get all the information about the routes. You see, it is going to get all the information about the routes. And now what happens here? Let's execute one method. What is the method? As of now, I am executing categories of one. Categories of one, it will get the category detail of specific and show. And you can see the request is executing successfully. Dispatching which method? Categories of one. The query executed to get that category and it is returning that category. JSON parser worked, CORS middleware worked, everything it is showing. Okay. Now let's go to the categories. But before going to categories, because for categories I written errors also, what we will do now, before going to categories, stop the MongoDB server. That means I am explicitly creating some problems. I am creating some problem. That means MongoDB server stopped. Okay. Now let's run this and see here. What we are doing, categories / enter. Now it is trying to connect with the categories. And when it is trying to connect with the categories, let's go to the debugger and check. Because it will take some time to fetch the categories related information. And after this, you see it is dispatching. It is dispatching which one? Get. And now you can see that error related detail came. What is the error detail? Connection refuse. Is application stopped? Application not stopped. Application is still running. Now what Express is doing? It is catching the problem and reporting the problem. And what I have done is I have reported the complete error. Instead of reporting the complete error, you can report only this error name. What is the error name? Error name is what? Connection refuse. You can report the complete details and it will report the issues. And you, it is not, it is still executing. Why it is not terminating? Because we are handling the exception. It shows that. Suppose I am requesting categories of 2. Then what happens? It has to show the same problem now. But here we are not catching the error and reporting the error. In this route, we are not catching the error. Na? In which route we are catching the error? We are catching the error only in what? Categories. In another route, we are not catching the error and reporting the error. Then obviously what should happen? If it is unable to catch the error, it is requesting it. And if it is unable to catch the error, it will terminate. Previously, it is not terminating. Why it is not terminating? Because we are handling exception. Earlier, we used to do this all using try, catch, throw, finally like options. But now it is little simple. You turn on the debugger, use the next method. By using next, catch the errors and report those errors. And abnormal termination we need to avoid. Previously, it is avoiding abnormal termination because we are catching the error and we are reporting the error. So how you debug the problems in API? How you debug the problems in the routes? How you identify the problems in the route and report them? That all we can do by using this technique. That means now why it is showing problem here? It is showing problem here because in our API, we catched error only in this route. In every route, we need to do that. That means what you have to do in this route also, we need which method? Next. That means what we have to do? We need to use after this then. Where is this? This then. Huh? Here we need to use what? Catch. Remember, I am using catch only for this connection. If there is a problem in returning the data in the form of array, then here also we are using a then. Here also we can have a catch. That means actually what developer do everywhere, at every level, they will define the catch and they will report the problem. So our application can easily identify where the problem is. Where the problem is, the problem in connection, is the problem in the query, because sometimes query problem also may come, like capitalization, mismatch of data, anything can happen. At every level we can identify. How do we do that? Here also we can use what? Catch. Here also we can use catch. But I am using catch only for connection. Catch, what we have to do? Catch the error. And after catching the error, what we have to do? So next, and send that error. We have to send the error. We need to send the error. Actually, this is going to report the problems and catch the problems. So what we do now, let's run this again. Let's run this again. Okay, debugger is running. Okay, now you see, I will request categories. I will request categories. I am requesting the categories. We are requesting categories. If it is unable to request the categories, there is some problem in requesting the categories, then what will do? It will catch the issue. What is the issue? It will catch and it will report the issue. Now you can see application is not terminated abnormal. It is still running. Now we will do one thing. So that means connection refused. It is showing this problem. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's start the MongoDB server now. I'm starting the MongoDB server. It is running now. Now what I will do, I will make a new request, categories of 1. Now hit enter, it will get that. Without terminating the application, it is able to show you the issues. And you see now, again, it is executing, dispatching and getting the result and showing. That means if there is a problem, it will report the problem. If there is no problem, it will successfully execute, but it will not terminate your application. So why you need error handling, exception handling in any application? Only one simple point: to avoid abnormal termination of application. Your application should not terminate. It should just report the problem. It should identify and report the problem. So at every level, whenever you use promises, you have to use it. Earlier in old version, as I told you, we don't have this mechanism. What we used to do, try catch the problems and throw the error, catch the error and use that error. But now it is simple technique. That means because everywhere there are promises, every error it can catch and it can report. Make sure that you started this debugger and you are using the debugger. Remember, if anybody asked you, then what is the purpose of Postman? Postman is also a debugger, right? Then what is Postman? Postman, Fiddler, and Swagger. These are the debuggers. That is also a debugger. What is the job of Postman like debuggers? Postman like debugger is used for handling the requests of API, identifying the type of content that API is receiving, and identifying the type of content to be sent to the API. These API related requests related response we can debug in which location? Postman. But what are the errors? See, those errors you test in Postman. Here you see you test in Postman. Here Postman also will show those errors. It will show the debugging errors and display. But there is a native debugger for Express. You turn on the native debugger, it can track your API, get your API request. It will identify how the API is sending a request and response, and it will report the issues. So what you have to do for every option, after you set this, now what we need to do is, here I will give an option. It will start tracking the requests and shows the tracking details and shows tracking details. However, if any issue occurred in application at runtime, it will terminate. It will terminate the application. It will terminate the application. Any issue occurred in application at runtime, it will terminate the application. You have to make sure that you are handling exceptions. You have to make sure that you are handling exceptions using catch. For every API request, you have to make sure that you are handling exceptions using catch for every API request. So finally, what you need to do syntactically, suppose app.get some path, request, response, and next. Suppose we have a Mongo client.connect and we have some URL dot then. So client object. After that, dot catch the error. And what you have to do is we need to pass this to next. Next error. That is how we need to configure for every promise. If the error is catched, you have to send that error through Express debugger. Debugger can catch that and show it. Actually, this error object, it is showing error details. Let me show you here. This you have to write for every method, every action, wherever you use promise, make sure that you don't ignore the then. What the catch, right? Now, actually, instead of showing all this error detail, I will terminate this. Control C, you can stop anytime. And let's go to API. API here, categories error dot name I am using. Means let me check this name property is provided by the error. Okay, then stop the database. You are making a request to categories. I'll make a request to categories. It is dispatching the categories. Actually identifying, and now you see, I am just displaying only the name of the error, not all the detail. Here we are just displaying the name of the error. What is the name of error? So Mongo server selection error. It is showing only the name of error. Previously what it is doing, complete error details. That means we can get only error name. There is one more option here. What is it? I will stop that. You see only error name will come. So we have another option. Message. Message. Now I will show here. Let's run this again. This is related to categories. Here also I will use not name. What is it? Message. Now I will run the debugger one more time. Okay. Let's request the categories here. Categories. Okay. I am requesting the categories. Because error contains all information about error, and many times we don't want all the details, we want only error name. or we want only the error message? So if there is any issue in requesting and displaying, you can see now the message is clear. Message say that connection refused. Connection refused from this location. We have error name and we have error message. We can send all error details. Error details means what, in which line, where the problem is there, which file problem is there. If you saw previously what it is showing, all the path, error path it is showing. We don't want all the details, only error name, error message. You can have both. We use concatenation, we can use error name as well as error message. So error object contains lot of details. It's not necessary to send all the details. What you can do is, so next method can send only specific error details, which include name or which include what, message. So syntactically everything is same, just I'm using catch error. After that what we have to do, next we need to send error dot message, or here I can use a expression like string. Binding values we can define error dot what, name colon, another one is what, error dot what, message. That means it will display the name and message very clearly. That is enough. We don't want all the data to send. We want only specific details to send. That is what we need to manage. So this is error handling and debugging in Express. How we can handle errors, how we can debug the APIs, how we can track the execution of API methods and find the problems in those methods. So I will copy that. Just what you have to do, you have to just add these next methods into this API. Rest of things are same. There is no other requirement here. What is it? This is api.what.js. So that is the file which is having all the options configured, right? So while working with Express.js, we have error handling and debugging. Two important points to handle, right? Now, once you know this, how to handle the errors and debug the errors and find the problems in your request. Now, in Express.js, we have some advanced concept also, like while working with APIs, we have the concept like web socket. But to practice this web sockets, you need a good user interface. Generally, what is web sockets, where they are used, we will see. For that, we need an UI, because we need to build a UI interface. For example, what is the concept of WebSocket is, suppose you are watching some websites. For example, you are watching YouTube channel. When you are watching YouTube, you open YouTube and you are watching some YouTube. Then actually on YouTube, you subscribed to some channels. And in your mobile also, you have YouTube app. Now that subscribed channels have uploaded a new video. Then what YouTube will do? It will push a notification to you. In that notification, it says that one new video added to this. Are you refreshing the app to see the new details? Are you refreshing the app to see the new details? We are not refreshing. We just left that app idle. Then automatically new details are pushed in and it is showing. That is done by using the concept of WebSockets. Suppose you are using a messenger. You are chatting with a friend. Then you minimized the messenger. And whenever a friend sends a message, a notification comes to you and it shows that a new message is from here. That is WebSocket. WebSocket is already working in your general web application. Actually, if you remembered, when you develop web application, you are using live server. What that live server is doing is it is running your page. Do you know when you go to VS Code, do some modification in the page, automatically that modification is reflected in the browser without refreshing the browser. That is because of what? WebSockets. WebSocket. What WebSocket can do? WebSocket allows us to push the updates to the page without reloading the page. But how it can be done? It requires a lot of UI. How new details can be added to page without reloading the page? We need AJAX. That means we need a combination of server-side WebSockets to design and client-side AJAX to implement. Then we can design that type of app. A chatting app like a messaging app like we can design, which will send the notifications. So by using this technique. But for that we need an API. Actually, WebSocket is a concept of server, but you cannot implement without the knowledge of client-side AJAX. Better we will do with client-side AJAX, how to handle that. So 2 more topics are there. I will explain those topics, then we can finish Express and Node.js. What are those 2 more topics? That is MySQL connection, how to use, and Mongoose connection, how to use. If we know these 2, then Express and Node.js will complete. Then we will start jQuery. With jQuery, some more backend concepts we will learn, like WebSockets and others, JWT tokens and all. That we'll see next session. Tomorrow we will continue with that, right? In tomorrow's session, mostly we will finish the complete Node and Express.js part. Now we will start working with jQuery, SAS. You have 2 topics, jQuery and SAS. And with jQuery SAS, we will learn about one project, how to design one application. And once we finish that project, our complete backend session will complete. Backend sessions we will finish with the end of project. Right? Once the project is completed with front-end and backend combination, our backend sessions will finish. People who already attended React, for them the course will complete. I will show deployment, cloud integrations, all those I will show here. People who are not attending React yet, for them React will start. Right? And you need to attend the React batch. If anyone already finished React, then after the project, your course ends. If you are still pending with React, so your React batch will start in coming 1 week, 1-2 weeks, React will start. You have to attend that React. Your backend will finish after the project. But for that project, I will teach you SAS and jQuery in the front end. After that, you will finish it. Okay. Then tomorrow we'll continue with this and we will finish Node and Express part. Okay. Right. Yeah.